Tales from the Storm are a series of official short stories from Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. This is the first story, The Weight of a Name. Just like that then, another squadron lost. Conrad's shoulders sagged as he sighed and muttered under his breath, cursing the gods or himself. Manago watched his eyes. They looked past her, past everything. What do you see? The faces of the poor bastards you ordered to the East End, I bet. Some of our best. None had survived the ambush. The Alamican resistance comprised countless factions, and the peoples of Ralgus Reach were but one. By its nature, it could never truly be defeated by the Imperial army. Nevertheless, the loss of so many experienced soldiers, some of whom had fought for nearly 20 years, would be keenly felt. Even a bloody novice like me can see that. Manago cleared her throat. We don't know if the Imperials found the tunnel, sir, but even if they didn't, without our men to guide them, our friends from Ul'dah are likely stranded. Out from the corner of her eye, Manago spied Mefrid frowning. Well, if you're not going to say it. Sir, if I may, who are these people and why are we risking so much to get them on the wrong side of Belser's bloody wall? The obvious question was answered with folded arms and furtive glances. After a time, Conrad spoke. They're the scions of the Seven Dawn. Old friends. One is the daughter of Curtis Heggs. The voice of rebellion. The man who spat in the Mad King's eye. Manago wasn't sure what answers he had expected, but this wasn't it. Bloody novice indeed. Name's Ida, Conrad continued. After the occupations, he fled to Charlayan. Learned a lot there, I'm told, but he never forgot about us. Ida's been assisting us for years now as a scion. Manago had heard of the scions, the saviors of Eorzea, some had called them, but they had become embroiled in the political machinations of Ul'dah's elite, and now people were saying that they had assassinated the Sultana? It seemed that Ida and her companions had reached out to the resistance, seeking a means to escape justice. The Eastern Squadron was their last hope, or so Manago thought. Nothing for it but to go and get them ourselves, Conrad said. The leaves twisted and twirled as they tumbled to the ground, faced by two pairs of eyes in the brush. All this for two people is not like him. Manago knelt, an arrow notched in her bow, trying desperately to ignore her own heartbeat. Gods, I hate waiting. Trust the old bear. He wouldn't take the risk if it wasn't worth it. Mefrid, who had been tasked with training Manago, was ever the voice of reason. He had told her before how the scions were instrumental in the Eorzean Alliance campaign against the 14th Legion, of how their forces had led to an assault on Castra Meridianum during Operation Archon, in which Gaius von Belser was killed. Such powerful allies would be invaluable in enlisting the support of the Alliance, without whom they could not hope to liberate Alamico. Manago scowled. If you say so. Mefrid glanced at her sidelong and then sighed. Just between us, I reckon he's got a mind to recruit her, maybe even groom her for a leading role. Who? Ida? Think about it. The daughter of a revolutionary hero, returned to fight for her homeland's freedom. Now that is a tale that will move men's hearts. That's a banner people will flock to. A bird's tale, aye. Some girl who's been away for 20 years. Just what we need. A symbol of power, he continued. Heard of the Griffin? She nodded. Mad bastard and his mask are preaching bloody vengeance to all and sundry. None knew his true identity, though some claimed he was a distant relative of Theodoric. Some even thought that was a good thing. Anyone better than the Garleans, eh? Sod that. We had enough of kings. A hawk cry rang out. Time to go, lass. Up, up. The pair broke cover and ran towards the rock, The entrance was well concealed and showed no sign of recent use. A short while later, as they crawled on their hands and knees through a narrow tunnel dug more than a decade before, Manago recalled stories of imperial sabotage and bodies buried beneath a mountain of earth and stone. She thought of Conrad and the others. Fighting right now, dying right now, maybe. You better be worth it. The pair were in a bad way when they finally limped into the reach. And what a pair they were, bleeding and bickering, still fuming over some great betrayal back in Ul'dah, worried sick about their comrades from whom they had separated in the chaos. But a week of the barbers did wonders for their disposition to a point. Pabalimo, the automators, invariably assumed he was the cleverest person in the room, an attitude made all the more annoying by the fact that he invariably was. Ida, on the other hand, was reckless and impulsive, emotional, but she had a way with people, a way of making them smile and think everything was gonna be alright. Both assassins were eager to lend a hand and repay the resistance, and it was not long before Manago came to view them as friends and comrades in arms. But when she thought back to what Mefrit had said about Conrad's design, about grooming Ida as a leader, she just couldn't see it. It was a day like any other. Manago and Ida had been tasked with reconnoitering Castrum Oriens and were preparing to return home when a high-pitched wail cut through the silence. A woman, hissed the scout, suddenly alert. No, a girl. The village in the East End had long been abandoned, and only Imperial soldiers traveled the roads. No one in the right mind ought to be out here. Let's go, Manago. Ida was already running. God damn it! Manago tried to keep up, then settled for trying to keep her company inside. After running what felt like miles, they arrived at the foot of a great tree. Lying in the roots was an older man, unconscious, bleeding from countless wounds. He was wearing resistance colors. Before him, a little girl stood sobbing. Followed the trail of blood, did you? Realization dawned. 7 hells! I think he's one of the squadron we dispatched to meet you a month back. I thought there were no survivors. Ida knelt beside the man and began tending to his wounds. There will be some time for questions later, she said without turning. Take the girl and head back to the reach. Manago blinked. Eh? Pabalima told me about this tactic. He's bait. The Imperials probably heard the girl too. They'll be here any moment. Then we gotta get out of here, both of us. That or we both stay and fight. The girl is not part of this. Someone has to take her. And this man's one of ours. We can't just leave him here. Manago glared at Ida. 3 fighters. 1 at death's door and a crying little girl. All in the shadow of a bloody castrum. God damn it. Manago grabbed the girl by the arm and tried to drag her away. She simply stood there, frozen. God damn it all! Manago scooped the girl up and flung her over her shoulder. Stay alive, I'll be back. And then she ran. Manago wound her way north through the forest, her mind racing. Get the girl to safety, call reinforcement, movement. She ducked behind a tree and strained to listen. She can't have gone far, shouted a voice. Woman, distraught. Alamican, mother, nothing to 12. The woman wore hunter's leather and had a bow slung across her back. She stared when she first saw Manago, but ran towards her when she recognized the girl cradled in her arms. She tried to thank her as she took the girl from Manago, but the scout had already turned and started running back the way she had come. You better be still alive. Bodies lay strewn about the clearing. Men and women clad in steel and black cloth. A whole patrol. They were all dead. Carefully, she stepped over and between them, eyes fixed on the sole figure that still stood streaked in mud and blood and panting like a feral beast. It whirled at her approach, fist raised, teeth bared, growling low, Byralg! Time seemed to stand still for a moment. Then Ida let her arms fall to her side and sank to her knees her face a picture of dismay. Papa Lima is never gonna let me hear the end of this. And indeed, the thaumaturge would chastise Ita when they returned to Ralgus Reach. Nor could she blame him. It was stupid and reckless and impossible to justify, and yet, days later, after Ita had time to recover, Managa found her one night standing at the Starfall shore and staring up at the destroyer. She asked the Scion then and there if she would consider joining the resistance, but Ita refused. Funnily enough, you're not even the first person to ask. I said no to Conrad too. But why? This is your homeland. This is your fight. I mean, for God's sake, you're the daughter of Curtis Hex. People follow you, don't you see? Ida bowed her head, and then looked again at the towering statue of Ralger. I'm his daughter, not him. I may not know a lot of things, but I know that's not enough. Managa opened her mouth to protest, but couldn't find the word. Papa Lima and I have still got friends out there. Good people we fought beside time and again. After we find them, we'll work together to make it right. She turned to her and smiled. That's all that matters in the end, isn't it, Nago? At first she wasn't sure how to respond, but Manago found herself smiling. What does it matter what we call each other, she thought. Both then and later, when Lyse told her the truth about her sister and the mask and everything else. You're still the same woman, the same friend. I'll fight with you, and I'll follow you too.